Good morning, it's Karen, and this is my wrap up for February. March. March was mediocre. It was mediocre March. 3 stars and a 4 star, but still, just felt so wah wah. Like, there was nothing that really sparked joy in this month. Okay, let's talk about the 4 star one that I gave, and that was the continuation of the Veronica Speedwell series, and that is A Murderous Relation. I think this is the fourth book, fifth book, one of those. This was a 4 stars. This series is just too fun. The banter between Veronica and Stoker is just to die for. There's just too much fun happening in this series for it not to ever be enjoyable. In the description of this book, there is a Jack the Ripper reference, and this is happening while the events of this book are happening. It's there, but Veronica isn't specifically involved in those events. So I feel like it's a little bit, it sets the time period, it sets the tone, but this has more to do with one of the heirs to the throne, and she is trying to find out if he's guilty or not of being present or stealing a jewel. This was just a fun little romp. I think I mentioned it in my vlog. Half of the book, it felt like half of the book took place in this expensive brothel. It was not gratuitous or anything. There wasn't really anything explicit. It was like not quite the environment I'm wanting to read. So I have already put the next book, I think the 6th book, on hold at the library, and I'm ready to read that one ASAP. I'm thoroughly enjoying this series. All right, my mediocre reads. This one I listened to, and it's called The Witch of Willow Hall. I read this one because I read The Last Heir to Blackwood Manor, and that's it. Last Heir of Blackwood Manor in September, and I loved it. It was so much fun. It was wild, it was crazy, it was like supernatural, and there were like mysteries and panels and hidden things, and it was so much fun. This one kind of fell flat for me. My biggest thing is like there was no witch until 50% of the way in. And okay, yeah, like if I'm reading a book that's titled The Witch of Willow Hall, I'm expecting there to be a witch of some kind. I didn't care if it was the main character, a side character, a ghost that ended up being there, but like it just felt really slow to get started. There was a lot of drama. A lot of drama. So when I first started reading this felt very Jane Austen to me. Jane Austen in the way that it had to deal with social standing, money, and then also marriages and engagements and your reputation and all of that. And this is sort of same era, except set in the United States. They have moved from Boston to escape these horrible rumors that are following them. They move to the countryside to this place called Willow Hall, and the villagers are a little bit weird, and there's like handsome men who keep popping up. We don't know what these rumors are until like pretty well into the book. There was just a lot of things that I felt were unnecessarily dramatic. I would recommend this one if you like that sort of era, early American dramatic, girls in dresses, figuring out if they're going to get engaged to the right man. There's a slight love triangle, but like not really. There's deaths, there's hauntings, there's secret babies. So there's a lot going on in this one. I just didn't feel the same with this one as I did with The Heir to Blackwood Manor. So unfortunately, this was a 3-star for me. I was in a bit of an audiobook reading slump. I could not figure out what kind of a book I wanted to listen to. I didn't know if I wanted fantasy. I didn't know if I could try a reread. I didn't know if I wanted a thriller of some kind. Nothing spoke to me. I listened to samples of a whole ton of them, and finally I just gave up and was like, you know what? I will check one of my science fictions off the list. And so I picked The Time Traders by Andre Norton. I already mentioned this in my vlog, but Andre Norton unbeknownst to me, was a pen name for Miss Norton or Mrs. Norton. Her name is Alice. What a boss. She wrote so much. Stories that she tells are very adventure filled. So all of the books that I have read the synopses to, they are all adventurous. They are all like high action, high octane. And this one was no different. This one hit the ground running and just went. So this man called Ross Murdoch, he's in jail, and the government comes and asks him, they say, hey, you can stay in jail, or we will offer this opportunity to go on a secret mission for us, but we can't tell you what it is until you get there. So he's like, okay, fine, whatever, like, I'll try it. And they go and they tell him, I love this premise. The Russians have figured out how to go back in time and find technologies that haven't survived because their materials are made up of disintegrating materials. So, like fabrics or gels or whatever, they just haven't stood the test of time. We haven't found these artifacts, so we don't know these technologies. So the Russians have gone back in time. They have found these technologies, and that is why they have an edge on America. So America is now sending people back in time to also go find those same technologies so that they can keep the playing field even. So Ross is tasked to go do this. There was a very cool scene where he was interacting with like old technology, but it was like way more advanced than what we have now. And he was just like flipping through things and scrolling through things, and it was so cool. There was something odd in the writing though that didn't quite gel with me, and I think it was maybe the way that the action happened. And the best one that I can refer back to is Ross is like being attacked by a bunch of people, and he's like punching at them and like battling them or whatever. The description though is like, and then he punched like he never punched before, and he surprised himself and managed to land every blow. And then he won. And I was like, okay. I struggled with, and just because it wasn't like as detailed as maybe I would have expected a battle scene to kind of be, and it was just a little bit too yada yada for me. I am going to try another Andre Norton, and the next one I think I have on my list is The Plague Ship, so looking forward to that. I listened to the first chapter already. It is weird. She's got some cool ideas. So if you're looking for some like action, kind of pulpy science fiction to read, Andre Norton is your author to go to. Before I get into my last one, I will give you an update on the Shahnameh. I really wanted to focus on this one for this month. I felt like I wasn't getting as far into it as I needed to. I'm really struggling to read physical books right now just to find time in my day. I tried my best to focus on the Shahnameh, and I got in a good ways. I am really enjoying it. Each section is very different. The section that I'm liking so far, I'm going to put his name and her name on here because I cannot forget Rutabe and Zal, I think. They are like this Romeo and Juliet couple that they're so attracted to each other, and there's like long descriptions for each other, of each other, and it does become repetitive. Their stature is like the cypress tree, or her musk in her hair, which I did have to ask my in-laws about, and that's just her scent. Apparently she smells lovely. This whole story was just like, whew, my goodness, I'm so surprised that nobody's adapted this into a romance yet. Or maybe they have and I just need to find it. But like, this was my favorite part of the Shahnameh so far, besides the cow that was covered in rainbow hair. The update is I got in a good chunk and I'm rather enjoying it, and I'm going to just keep continuing and chipping away at it through the year. This last one pains me, and I am so sad that I don't like it. China Mieville has been on my radar for a long time. I have wanted to read something of his for a while. And The City and the City seemed like a pretty good choice because it won the Arthur C. Clarke Award in 2010, and I really wanted to read through the Arthur C. Clarke Awards. This is probably, I don't know, because I've never read anything else by him, but maybe a little bit different from what he normally writes. This is a science fiction police procedural. And my goodness, was I ever bored. I did not care about the victim. I did not care about the detective inspector person. I just didn't care. Like, I could have put this down and been okay not knowing what had happened. I'm so sad about this. Ah! I would like to show you to my vlog footage that I was unable to put in because it just added too much time, but I'd like you to hear what I had to say at that point. Okay, let's talk about The City and the City. I don't want to say struggling. It's just a slower read than I was expecting it to be. The City and the City is this insanely conceived yet very basic kind of police procedural with a sci-fi bent. It is about two cities that live in the same space, and people are taught to unsee the other people in the other city. And if they acknowledge other people in the other city, it's called a breach. And there's a whole lot of like police involvement and stuff. And it's that's the sci-fi bent. Except it's just like underneath it's kind of a basic police procedural. Now I was trying to figure out why I'm not as engaged as I thought. And one of the reasons is I think the city is set in a Balkan area, and so the names to me are really I'm struggling with the names and remembering the names of people. There are two books that it reminds me of, and neither of these really gelled with me. Both of these were also struggles for different reasons, but they were also detective stories. So if you like either of these two, you might be interested in The City and the City. And those two were Nomon by Nick Harkaway, I think, and Pattern Recognition by William Gibson. The pattern recognition I had to read for a Canadian fiction course, and the thing about that one that I didn't like was there were a lot of references in it, and the references threw me off from the main story. The Nick Harkaway one, Nomon, was insane. This is a chunky book. Like, I don't know if it was like 800 pages or something, and it had like 5 different storylines going on, and they spanned from like ancient, I can't remember if it was Roman Greek, but ancient Roman Greek, and to this like futuristic society where there is a police trained detective person trying to figure out all about this person. Both reminded me of The City and the City because it was a science fiction, but underlying everything, it was just a detective story. So if you are interested in either of any of that, then this would be the book for you. For me, I don't think it is. So as you can see, I think I just don't gel with detective stories set in a science fiction universe. Oh my goodness. The Expanse is like that too, and I didn't like The Expanse. The Leviathan Wakes was basically a detective, and that's science fiction. Okay, so I don't like science fiction detective stories, which is weird because I really enjoyed fantasy detective stories. So, what is going on here, Karen? What is going on? I don't know. My name is Karen. Thank you so much for watching. And I really hope that my April wrap up will be a lot more cheery and successful than this one was.